The radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Friday, October 18th. Still recovering from surgery, as you guys know. I don't know. This recovering from surgery stuff is exhausting. I don't know. I'm just exhausted constantly. Sleeping better though, and not a lot of pain. So I'm lucky on the pain front, but exhausted. Anyway, this is one of those problems that goes away with time. I will be better next week. I'll be even better than that the week after that, and we'll be great. So. But here we are for another show, for another daily news roundup. Today we'll talk about Israel, maybe North Korea. Interesting article, interesting academic study, actually, academic paper on politics and CEOs. Is woke capitalism just virtue signaling, or does it reflect the actual views of management? And another interesting little graph I found, again, an academic study somebody published, that really, I think, shows at least one aspect of the Dark Ages, which I think is interesting. So we'll talk about that as well. So a lot to cover. Israel, there's a lot going on, obviously, with Sinwar being killed yesterday. That was kind of fun, but now we have to talk about, well, what next? And again, we are kind of on pins and needles every day now about whether there is going to be an Iranian strike. Is it going to be today? Is it going to be tomorrow? Is it going to be next week and next month after the U.S. elections? Who knows? But everybody sitting here and waiting for the Israelis to act again. Typical of kind of the kind of, I don't know, slowness, indecisiveness of Netanyahu. But still waiting, so we'll talk about that. All right, what do we want to say? Yes, ask questions. Great time to ask questions. Don't know how long we'll go today. We'll go today as long as you guys want me to go. That is, as long as you guys ask questions. $20, $50, $20 and up questions get priority. We've always got a goal, kind of to fund the show. We kind of got a goal for the first hour, second hour. And first hour, every hour is $250. So if we go 1 hour, $250, 2 hours, $500, 3 hours, $750, and so on. So we're in. So that is the zone. But I think what's interesting about the super chat, I mean, I find raising money using super chat really interesting. But really, what's interesting about the super chat is your questions and the scope of the questions all over the place. So I'm looking forward to that. I am planning to do shows on the weekend. I don't exactly know topics yet and timing, but I do expect to do a show on Saturday. Sunday, I think I'm doing a show in Hebrew. So I'll do a show on Saturday, not sure about Sunday. That reminds me, I need to set up the Sunday show. I will let you know about the Saturday show. And then next week, we'll do a members-only show and also another show. So Super Chat is win-win. You get to support the show, which is a value to you, supposedly. So it keeps going, so you get to continue to enjoy it. And I get to eat and pay rent and pay mortgage and stuff like that. And also, if you ask a question, I get my mind stimulated and you get an answer. And hopefully that stimulates your mind as well. So thank you, Robert, who started us off with a $2 sticker. Kind of maybe it's $2 Friday. $2 Friday is pretty good. So you too can do a sticker for $2 and get us rolling. And Sylvanus came in and he basically said, to hell with that $2. I'm just going to do 20. So thank you, Sylvanus. So thank you guys for the stickers. And it's another way, of course, to support the show. All right, let's jump in, talk about Israel. So as we know, Israel killed Sinwar yesterday. Good riddance. That was wonderful. It was good news. The Palestinians are flinging his killing yesterday as he died heroically because he was already injured, he was bleeding, he was everything, and he still managed to fling a piece of wood at the drone that was filming him. They're pretty desperate. They'll take anything as a sign of life for the resistance. But it was a good day, and it's good to have one less evil bastard off the face of the earth. But it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't solve much, right? It's one more leader. Hamas can generate new leaders at incredible rates. Evil is kind of self-perpetuating in disgusting ways, but it does. There are still thousands of Hamas fighters. There's still many young people in Gaza who would join Hamas as soon as they get to a certain age. There is a bunch of Hamas leaders in Qatar really sitting on billions of dollars of personal wealth, but also billions of dollars they can spend on perpetuating this. And it's fairly disgusting, just as an aside here, it's fairly disgusting that the United States sanctions Qatar's sanctioning of these Hamas leaders in Qatar, that they allow them to keep their money. This is money that was donated through various agencies for the Palestinian people and has really landed up in all these monsters' bank accounts. We know that the billions given to Hamas over the years have gone to weaponry and weapon systems and tunnels and killing Israelis. And we, Israel, the United States, just allow that to continue to happen. Qatar should be boycotted. They should have no voice in anything. They should until they get rid of these people, or Israel should or America should just bomb the place in which these Hamas leadership reside in Qatar. I'm sure they know where they are. Just get it over with. Just kill them all in one time. But that's not going to happen. So anyway, so we've got them there. So in other words, Hamas is not finished. Hamas is still in existence. It's still there. For all I know, and I don't have updated data, the Palestinian people in Gaza still support Hamas. They're still behind Hamas. That hasn't changed. Israel still has to win the war. And winning the war means the complete devastation of Hamas so that they surrender, the release of the hostages, and the conviction among the Palestinian people that Hamas is not a good idea for them, that they need to rethink their leadership, they need to rethink their philosophy of life. That would be it, right? And Israel's still not there. It's not there, and it still needs more, and it still needs... Now is a good time. Now is a good time. I mean, the Palestinians are down. Sinwar died. They lack leadership. Go in there with everything you've got. Now, I know they're fighting in the north, and they're about to fight in Iran, but go in with everything you can afford to go into. Go in there and try to destroy everything left of Hamas that you can identify. Biden, on the other hand, the president of the United States of America, commander-in-chief of the United States military, is suggesting to Israel to basically surrender. He's saying, okay, kill Sinwar, enough's enough. We need a deal. Let's have a peace deal. It's done. It's all over. Come on, Israel, stop this. You don't have to go anymore. Let's just cut a deal with these guys. The war in Gaza is finished. I know Biden has just been a shackle around Israel's desire for self-defense, just holding them back constantly, giving bad advice, threatening them. All he cares about is, and you could ask, is this ideology or is this virtue signaling about Biden? But all he cares about, humanitarian aid. Is that going in? Let's feed. Let's make sure we feed and clothe and provide polio shots and everything else to the people who want to destroy your country and who want to kill all of you. That's what we should be doing. That is the United States of America's government. It's the State Department. It's Biden. And it's, I think, a lot of people It's not an unusual position. That is the position of most people out there. So certainly the position of almost all Europeans and European governments, and it's just horrible, So it's very difficult for Israel, even if it wanted to do what's necessary in this kind of international environment, and yet it has no choice because its survival and its prosperity depend on it. So Israel needs to deal with Hamas. It's still got a way to go. It also needs to deal with Hezbollah. It has eviscerated its leadership ranks, not just at the very top, but also at the local level in the south of Lebanon. It's probably killed about, according to their conservative estimates, about 1,500 Hezbollah operatives. But Hezbollah is big. We're talking about tens of thousands of militants. We're talking about still tens of thousands of missiles. They're probably destroyed over half of their arsenal, but their arsenal was about 140,000. So they still have maybe 50,000 missiles. They've launched about 20, 50 left, maybe 40,000, maybe 20,000. That's a lot. There's still a lot of work to do in the north. And Israel's, again, doing it slowly. Now, again, it could be that the slow action is a consequence of just lack of troops, lack of resources. It's possible. 5 Israeli soldiers died yesterday in Lebanon as a consequence of fighting with Hezbollah. So this is not without a cost. This is not easy. This is not a freebie. This requires boots on the ground, going from tunnel to tunnel, destroying them, but doing it very slow and systematic. There's no blitzkrieg here. You could argue that the approach should be a blitzkrieg. I think they're worried that if they blitzkrieg would be just send the tanks in to run through to the Litani and then clean up operations behind you. The problem with that is I think they're worried about being ambushed. They're worried about Hezbollah jumping out of tunnels. So they're going inch by inch by inch. They're going slowly, special ops, clearing operations, and they're slowly going kilometer by kilometer towards the north. This is going to take a long time at this pace. I think ultimately Israel is still hoping, I think this is a mistake, but I think Israel is still hoping for some kind of negotiated deal with Lebanon. They're still hoping to get Lebanon to a tipping point where the Lebanese army and the Lebanese people rebel against Hezbollah. Hezbollah, of course, is Lebanese people, but the other Lebanese people rebel against the Hezbollah itself. How to really tell whether that can happen and when that can happen, but it's still a way off. Lebanon is standing up to Iran for the first time in a long time, so there's a little bit of that going on. But there's still a lot that the Lebanese, the Israelis are going to have to do to weaken Hezbollah. There's still a lot more Hezbollah operatives that have to die. Still a lot more of their arsenal, of their weapon systems that have to be destroyed before I think before the Lebanese have the guts to stand up to Hezbollah. So Israel still has a lot of work to do there, And it better get on with doing it. It has cut a lot of the supply lanes from Iran into Hezbollah. So Iran is struggling to figure out what to do with Hezbollah. But again, even there, still more work to be done. We talked about, I think yesterday, the fact that Israel might be encircling Hezbollah by going through Syria. It's a little weird, the whole thing, because it's been telegraphed. If I know about it, suddenly the Iranians know about this plan. So what's up with that? And if it's not a secret, can it still work? So that's going on. And then of course we're still waiting for what is going to happen with the Iranians. So according to one report, there's a report that Israel is prepared now for major strike on Iran. So supposedly this is out of U.S. intelligence that Israel's been preparing for the last few days for a large-scale strike on Iran. We're talking about ballistic missiles, air-launched ballistic missiles that are called Golden Horizon and Rocks, and they've been preparing those and loading them up to airplanes and getting ready to use them and training on them. But also air-to-ground missiles, non-ballistic missiles, air-to-ground missiles, and everything else. The Air Force is out in force. They've been practicing refueling exercises. Remember, Israel cannot get to Iran and back without refueling on the way. So they are exercising refueling, and of course, refueling is tricky because you're exposed when you're refueling to ground-to-air missiles, to enemy aircraft, supposedly. So Israel has to, you have to be able to defend the refueling operation, whether it's with airplanes or with missiles or with whatever. So it's not, the whole thing is very tricky, very difficult, and I'm sure is getting some U.S. aid. But Israel is preparing this large-scale operation against Iranian military facilities. So it's pretty clear that Israel is not going to strike nuclear facilities and is not going to strike the oil facilities of Iran. The focus is on military facilities. Indeed, there's another story out. This is a report in the Times newspaper in the UK. And this report is claiming that an indirect goal for the Israeli attack on Iran, a goal shared by the United States and Israel, is to encourage regime change, which I've been calling for decades. But interesting to see if it's even possible with only air operations. The strikes are expected to target the Iranian military, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and the Basij paramilitary group, with the last two of these being the primary forces behind the recent put-down of protests and civil unrest against the Iranian government. So the hope there is that if you weaken the Islamic Revolutionary Guard and you weaken the paramilitary groups, that there'll be more civil unrest, there'll be a real uprising in Iran, and this will lead to regime change. Israeli officials are again stating, who knows what this means, that they're planning to hit Iran really hard. Remember shock and awe? Shock and awe. I wasn't shocked or awed by shock and awe, but maybe this time I'll be surprised and we'll get a real shock and awe. Anyway, could it happen tonight? What's the time now? It's 3-something. So in terms of Israel time, that is, what is that? 6 hours ahead, 7 hours ahead. So we're talking about 10 p.m. If it's going to happen tonight, it's happening now. That is, the planes are on their way. Planes on their way, or within the next couple of hours, they're taking off and they're on their way. So we will know soon enough if there's a reality, if this is really happening, and if it's happening now. If not tonight, tomorrow night, the night after that, I really don't know. At this point, I cannot predict timing on these things. Clearly, Israel's going to do something about Iran. They might be waiting. Biden was just in Europe. He probably got yelled at by his allies, so maybe he'll yell at Netanyahu. I don't know. Maybe America has to give the green light. Supposedly Netanyahu has already gotten the green light. So who knows what the politics in the background of all of this are? But it does appear as again that this will happen in the next couple of days. And I've said that already, I don't know how many times, so I understand if you guys are frustrated by my inability to foresee the future with greater accuracy than I am. I'm frustrated by it too. Another piece of news, again, I don't know. I don't think this has been verified, so this is, again, kind of on the scale of rumors. Israel is expecting an Iranian response to whatever it does, and then it is expecting another response by Israel to what Iran does, a response that could be even harsher than what it does this time, and maybe at that point target nuclear facilities. Anyway, because it's expecting a serious Iranian response to its attack now, Israel has asked the United States. You remember we already talked about the THAAD system, ground-to-air defense system. They've asked the United States to station one of those systems in Israel, and that is stationed and supposedly should be operational, if not today, tomorrow, imminently. But supposedly, Israel has now asked for a second system to be operational in Israel. By the way, one of those systems, there were reports of it was originally going to be in the south of Israel. Now it's going to be in the north of Israel. Again, I don't know, but now reports of a second such system and a Patriot battery all moved to Israel. So in addition to Israel's own Iron Dome and Arrow 2 and 3, now we're talking about adding to that significant American resources. And I think the problem with the Israeli system is not inaccuracy. It's not, it's not success enough rates. I just think they don't have enough capacity to deal with 200 ballistic missiles sent at them at once. And that's what they're trying to deal with. So that's where we are. Of course, I will update you as soon as we get, as soon as whatever happens with Iran actually happens, and we can analyze the actual consequences or the actual targets and what Israel has decided to do, and I'll give you my assessment of that once it actually happens. So let's move to another topic. I'm going to go out of, not in the order of what is written in the title. Quickly, we'll do North Korea, just because it's another foreign policy issue. It does seem like, we're getting from multiple sources now, that North Korea is supplying soldiers to the Russian front in its fight with Ukraine. Both special forces soldiers, but also just regular forces. That they are being trained in eastern Russia, not far from the North Korean border with Russia. North Korea has a small border in the northeast, in the east of Russia. And they're being trained in the east side of Russia and then transported to the border with Ukraine, and the North Koreans will be on the ground fighting for the Russians against the Ukrainians. I don't know. From everything I know about North Korea, this represents just the fact that these people are brainwashed. These soldiers don't know what they're fighting for, who they're fighting against, what's going on. North Korea is a very isolated place. They know nothing outside of North Korea. Hopefully, some of them will use this opportunity. We heard about 100 and something of them trying to escape. They'll use this opportunity to defect and to get out of North Korea. But who knows? Again, these are people who've been brainwashed since they were very little children to do this. This is a big boost. If the numbers are right, we're talking about 10 to 12,000 soldiers. This is a big boost to the Russian military. I don't know how good they are, how well trained they are, but again, it's bodies, and that's what the Russians seem to care about. They view soldiers as cannon fodder. So it's a big boost to the Russian army. And at the same time, South Korea, tensions with South Korea and North Korea at really high levels, higher than we've seen in a long time. North Korea has now declared South Korea as basically a hostile state. I think it's changed its constitution to declare South Korea a hostile state. I doubt North Korea will do anything to South Korea. South Korea has a formidable military, and it has the backing of the United States. It has a defense treaty with the United States. There are U.S. soldiers stationed in South Korea. North Korea would not survive for very long, but they do have nukes, so that is something one has to watch out for. South Korea has stated that if North Korean troops are going to fight on the side of Russia, it will start supplying weapon systems to the Ukrainians. South Korea has some of the best weapons in the world. They have phenomenal fighter planes. They have some of the best tanks. manufactured in South Korea in the world. They obviously are amazing. They have amazing drone technology, you know, and they could really help, I think, the Ukrainians on a number of different fronts. Somebody says, does South Korea have nukes? No, South Korea does not have nukes. They rely on, just like many, they rely on America's kind of nuclear umbrella for protection. They don't have nukes of their own. I mean, I would argue that it's about time South Korea, Japan, and Taiwan got nukes. I mean, that's one way to secure the, you know, the Southeast Asia from China and from North Koreans is to provide the good guys in Southeast Asia with nukes, and that would be South Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore, and sorry, not Singapore, and Japan with nukes, and that would mutually assured destruction, I think, would pacify that part of the world. So difficult times ahead, I think, for the Ukrainians. Uncertain times ahead for the South Koreans. A volatile period, a volatile era. Again, you know, Seoul, the city Seoul, this massive city of, I can't remember how many millions, over 10 million people, maybe much more than over 10 million. Basically within artillery range of North Korea. Could be, the whole city could be destroyed. But maybe Israel sold them an Iron Dome. Let's hope that Israel has sold the South Koreans an Iron Dome, and they have an Iron Dome-like system protecting Seoul, the city. One more thing about Ukraine. It does seem like Zelensky it's almost, he's conceding that he can't win, really, I think for the first time, it appears. I think that his view as expressed in the last couple of days is, look, you know, there's basically only two alternatives. One is, and supposedly he told Donald Trump this, so this came out of his conversation with Donald Trump a few weeks ago. One is we get accepted to NATO. That'll end the war, or at least that'll force the Russians to negotiate, because they might face the whole of NATO on the other side, and they don't want that. So one is we join NATO, and the other is we find a way to acquire a nuke. Remember, it was the United States security guarantee that in 1994, was it, or in the 1990s, got Ukraine to give up its nukes. They had the third largest nuclear arsenal in the world after the United States and Russia, and they gave it up in exchange for a security guarantee from the United States. Didn't work out too good for them. So they're threatening to get their own nuke. That all sounds pretty desperate, but they are desperate. Look, I mean, I think we all know that the odds of Donald Trump being the next president of the United States are now seemingly greater than 50%. At least the betting markets are saying the odds are greater than 50%. By the way, Nate Silver's model is now shifted. It was Kamala Harris with slightly greater odds of winning over Donald Trump. Now it's flipped, and now Donald Trump has slightly greater odds than Kamala Harris, and there's a 0.3% possibility of a draw, which would go Trump's way because the House of Representatives decides if there's a draw. So there's a good chance that Trump wins, right? And about a 50%, but that's slightly better maybe than 50% chance that Trump wins. And Trump is made very clear that he does not like Zelensky. He thinks Zelensky is the cause of the war. When you ask Trump and when you talk to Trump about the Ukraine-Russia war, he never, as far as I can tell, blames Russia. I've never seen him anywhere where he actually blames Russia for the war. He squarely blames Zelensky and Biden for the war between Ukraine and Russia. So, and that's Trump. He's going to be president soon. There's a good chance, right? What do you do with that? I mean, basically, Zelensky at that point will have to either surrender, sit down, negotiate with Putin on Putin's terms, and with the United States kind of leaning towards Putin, or I don't know what, find a nuke really, really quickly. I don't know where you get that, or basically lose. But without U.S. help, with a U.S. administration antagonistic to Ukraine, I don't see how Ukraine can survive. I don't see how Ukraine can survive. Yes, that is, whoops, I didn't mean to close that. I wanted that open. So that is the North Korea story, and Ukraine and Russia, bringing you up to speed on all of that. All right, let's see what else. We want to talk about CEOs politics. Oh, I needed a semicolon there. How come I didn't get a semicolon there? I need to change the title. So I came across this story connected to a academic paper. I don't think the academic paper has been published yet, but a paper circulating with the study. It's called. Let me just put the semicolon in. Save. It's basically called. The Political Transformation of Corporate America, 2001 to 2022. And what the study does is it looks at how people have. Whoops! I did it again. All right, sorry guys. I've got to fix this. No, not there. Okay, there, like that. I think that's better. I think that'll work. It looks at political donations of CEOs, C-suite executives, board of director members, and senior managers across 9,005 different U.S. companies, right? So pretty big sample. That's 9,005 different companies, but then in each company you've got all of this. So they're using basically, the donation. You have to disclose political donations, and they're looking at those numbers. And then they're categorizing them. How many CEOs voted, Republican? How many CEOs contributed money? So they view, in a sense, contributions of money as more significant, right? More significant than voting. So they're looking at contributions of money. And part of the purpose of the paper is to think through this question. Here's the question. Clearly, over the last few years, we've seen the rise of woke business, woke corporations, and a strong rise in so-called stakeholder capitalism and so-called stakeholder theory and corporate social responsibility and all the leftist buzzwords. And the question is this, right? Is this a consequence of the fact that, corporations are still the way they always used to be, but in order to do business, in order to advance, in order to be successful, they have to virtue signal. They have to let their customers and the stakeholders and the politicians and whoever and academics in the world, they have to pretend to be leftist and woke. Because, so it's just virtue signaling. It doesn't reflect a change in the actual beliefs of the people running the businesses. An alternative to that explanation is, of course, that no, corporations have adopted and embraced stakeholder theory, social responsibility, woke stuff, all this other stuff, right, as because they really become more left-wing. This is what they actually believe. Now, of course, you can have both, right? They can have moved a little bit to the left, but they have to virtue signal far left. And I think that's what the data ultimately, shows. So here I'm going to read you the abstract of the paper, and then we'll talk about it, right? And then we'll talk about it vis-a-vis Silicon Valley, which I think is also interesting. The article reconciles conflating views about the political landscape of corporate America with new data on the revealed political preferences of 97,469 corporate directors and executives at 9,005 different U.S. companies. I find that average ideology for these individuals has shifted meaningfully to the left over time, changing from modestly conservative in 2001 to roughly centrist by 2022. So they haven't gone all the way left, but they're not as nowhere near as conservative as they used to be. And we'll talk about how that breaks down in a minute. This finding supports a middle ground position between conventional wisdom casting business as a conservative stronghold and revisionist views holding the opposite. The counterfactual simulations and a difference in differences design suggest multifaceted causes for these changes. And hand-collected data on corporate stances on LGBTQ-related legislation, coupled with an instrumental variable design, these are all statistical methodologies, indicate that individual ideology has large effects on firm-level political activity. That is, the ideology of individual leaders has significant impact on how the corporation behaves or what the corporation advocates for. Overall, I continue from the abstract, this transformation has profound implications for American politics, as the individuals comprising one of the most powerful interest groups, corporate elites, appear to be fracturing ideologically and to some degree even switching sides. So this is, I think, super interesting, and it's super interesting that these guys have found a statistical empirical method to evaluate it that doesn't go and just ask these people questions, because I don't trust questionnaires. I don't trust studies that are based on questionnaires. So this is interesting. How empirically robust this is, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see where it gets published, and I know you guys don't trust peer reviews, but peer review in these kind of studies usually will test the robustness of the real empirical evidence involved. Anyway, I'm looking at some graphs. One of the interesting things is that if you look at different classes of management, this effect is different for each one of them. So if you look at CEOs, for example, in 2000, 2002, the study starts, CEOs are pretty conservative. They're pretty conservative. They contributions are tilted dramatically to the Republican Party. And by 2022, they are still conservative, but a lot less so. A lot less so. C-suite executives, less conservative than CEOs at the beginning of the period and at the end of the period. Boards, about the same level of conservatism, according to this, as C-suite executives at the beginning of the period, much more inclined to vote Democratic, or not vote, give money to Democrats, at the end of the period. So they are even more to the left, if we want to categorize it left and right, the Democratic Republican. Even, they've actually crossed over to the moderate side. And senior managers start out a little conservative in 2002 and end up significantly to the left, significantly on the Democratic side by the time you get to 2022. So you can see, this is somewhat reflective of age. I would say senior managers tend to be a little younger than C-suite or CEO, and they started out conservative, and now of course not the same people. Now they're quite a bit to the left. So there seems to be this tilt. So that's interesting. It is interesting that ideologically American business has shifted. Ideologically, American business has become significantly less conservative, and this is a tilt that did not happen in a day. It's a tilt that's been started in 2002, and he's got, year by year analysis, and you can see how it has shifted, right? From significant conservative support, for example, among CEOs, to a lot less. One of the interesting things, so this suggests that it's not just virtue signaling, that it's ideological, right? And it suggests that it's not just that. There probably is some virtue signaling, because there's still a lot of conservative CEOs. But if you look deeper at the data, what it also suggests is, in a sense, a reflection of what's going on in our culture. Because what is really going on is, what you've got is still quite a few CEOs who you would categorize as pretty conservative. Not a lot of CEOs who are moderates, again, based on this categorization, not mine. And then, whereas in the past you had very few leftist CEOs, today you've got two peaks on the significantly conservative and on the significantly leftist. So it goes up, down for moderate, and up again for conservative. So what we're getting is a very bifurcated political spectrum among CEOs and among other senior managers. Now, senior managers have always had more tilt to the left, but it's even more dramatic now. But it's still true that the one place where you're not seeing much movement, or if you are seeing movement, it's shrinking, is in the moderate space. You're seeing rise in the extremes. This is true of CEOs, it's true of senior managers, it's true of board members, which is fascinating. And it's reflective of, in some sense, the tribalism of the culture. It shows that CEOs are not immune from these wider, bigger cultural trends. Maybe they are leading those trends. Maybe they're even helping make those trends a reality. So that, I think, is really interesting. By the way, supposedly this also, if you look at Great Britain, you see a similar phenomena. But those of us who are pro-capitalist and think that corporate CEOs becoming super leftists is not a good thing for capitalism, this is a real problem. Now, the fact is that when they were super conservatives, they weren't particularly capitalist either. But at least at least on one issue, they were right, and you had a chance to move them in the right direction. I don't know. I don't think this is a good sign, even if you don't really accept the kind of left-right split as it's presented today. So that's interesting. The other thing that is interesting, the other one that's interesting, and that is a little different in terms of its results, is Silicon Valley. So they did the same thing, just the Silicon Valley companies. Okay? And what you see here is that even in 2000, Silicon Valley was a little less conservative than other corporate America, but it was still right of center. And a big chunk of Silicon Valley CEOs would be categorized by the metrics of this system, the way these academics categorize people, as moderates. And that there were very few in 2000 CEOs in Silicon Valley who you would consider, and this is more than CEOs, this is tech executives, as progressive left, as real leftists. What has happened over time is between 2000 and 2020, you've seen the number of conservative executives in Silicon Valley shrink, the number of moderates shrink, and the number of real leftists go through the roof, really increase. In 2000, so if in 2000 you get kind of a slight slope towards conservatives. In 2020, you get the opposite. You get a huge left, slightly, with some conservatives at the tail. What's fascinating is the change between 2020 and 2024. In 2024, the number of far left tech execs has shrunk dramatically. And a lot of that, and the number of tech execs affiliated with the right has increased dramatically. And what you now have is two peaks, reflective much more of other CEOs in other industries, other executives in other industries. Still quite a few left-leaning tech execs, but even more right-leaning tech execs. This is actually from a different study, right? That looks at the same thing. It looks at similar stuff. So Silicon Valley has recently splintered. And part of this has to do with the fact that, and you can see this in Silicon Valley, which is fascinating, the venture capital, many within the venture capital community have come out as right-wing, again, based on the traditional definitions, or the current definitions, however, Trumpists, Republicans, whereas founders in tech companies are still relatively left-wing, and this analysis looked at all people in tech, so including venture capitalists. But you're also seeing certain founders in tech, Peter Thiel is an obvious example, Elon Musk, but also others who are what's his name, the guy the guy who did Oculus, quite a few coming out more to the right, and then you've got people like Zuckerberg kind of drawing away from the left. So you've definitely got a decline in the left, and this is not about so it's it's really fascinating. It's really fascinating to see this and how this plays out in Silicon Valley and what it means kind of for our future, particularly given that in this sense that these right-wing people are not good right-wing people. I mean, I'm not talking about them as people, but in terms of ideas. This is not a pro-capitalist right. Palmer Luckey, thank you. Palmer Luckey is the other guy. But there are a number of them. There's a bunch. CEO Plantier. There's a number of kind of right-wing tech execs, prominent tech execs, which 4 years ago, in 2020, when Palmer Luckey indeed was fired from Facebook, nobody said a word. Now there are lots of them. So the shift towards a statist right in Silicon Valley is a worrisome shift. It's a worrisome shift. This is not a shift towards free market right. Indeed, in 2000, the people who here in the study, they are categorized as right, those people were more libertarian right. The Larry Ellisons of the world, the Sam McNeelys of the world, flawed, but pro-free market right. The right-wing tech people today are far more Donald Trump right than free market right. And that is not a good trend. That is kind of scary. And the fact that that category that's called moderate, which is probably the sanest right now, in the sense that they're not crazy about violating individual rights over here on the right, and they're not crazy about violating individual rights here on the left. They're kind of moderate about them. They're the more free market types, I think, today would categorize themselves as moderates. That category has shrunk the most. So that's where we are. I thought it was interesting. Wanted to share that with you. But that is right, left, and the bifurcation American business around right and left, and the dedication of executives around right and left is a pretty scary phenomena, I think. Pretty scary phenomena. All right, let's see what I want to do here. We got one more story, and then we got a couple of fun ones, fun, crazy ones. Yeah, Dark Ages. I came across this graph. It's been going around Twitter. It's out of a paper that somebody has published. I need to get the paper. I haven't gotten the paper yet, but it's a cool graph that I thought I would share with you, and I'm going to do that in a second. Here, here it is. Let's see. There, you can see it. All right. So what does this graph represent? Right. So this represents. Whoops. I don't want to do that. All right. Let me put this over here. Oh, that's not what I wanted. One sec. Come on, switch. All right, I see I'm going to have to do it by force. It won't let me go there. Give me a second to fix this. Let me, reload this page. I think once I reload it, it will be recognized. Yeah, there it is. All right. No, it's not doing it. Why is it not doing it? All right, there it is. All right, there's the graph. What does this graph? Represent? This is the number of notable scholars in Europe and the Mediterranean from the 7th century BC to the 14th century AD. Right? So this looks at, if you will, the number of important scholars, philosophers, scientists, but also religious theologians who are writing, publishing, creating stuff. And what you can see is, obviously you can see the rise of Greek philosophy in the BC, in the BC era. And so let me just do one more thing. You can see it during the pre-Roman Empire, an increase, and then during the Roman Empire, a significant increase in philosophers and scientists, in all of that activity going on. And it's primarily dominated by what they're calling Italy, which is really, just the Roman Empire, more broadly the Roman Empire itself. So the focus there is on the Roman Empire and how much they are actually producing. And you can see the intellectual flourishing that is happening during this period. And it's happening primarily in Rome, some in Northern Europe, and a little bit in Spain. But it's all under, basically, I think, the category of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire. I think they're roping in Greece here into the Roman Empire under Italy. But, so you see the increase. Then you can see from the 4th to the 5th century AD, you can just see a collapse. Just a collapse. Almost to zero. Almost to before Greece. The rise of Greece. In terms of prominent intellectuals. And then for 1, 2, 3, 4 centuries, 400 years, the Dark Ages, basically way below Greek production. Now, it's true that starting in the 10th century, there's an explosion of notable scholars. And here I wish they'd broken it down by type of scholar, and I still have to dig and find the actual paper to see how they break this down. But what you'll discover is almost all of this from the 10th on to the 14th century is religious scholarship. Almost all of that is religious people writing about, but at least they're writing, at least they're doing something. For 400 years, there was nothing. It's called the Dark Ages. This later period is called the Middle Ages, where there is the precursor to the Renaissance. Of course, if you continue this graph, it goes way up into the stratosphere, because starting in the 15th century, you get scientists and philosophers. During this period, you get very few philosophers, you get mostly theologians, and a lot of theologians. So the writing's almost all on theology. But this Dark Ages, and you can see it closely, you can see the Dark Ages a little better if we give you this look, this is a close-up on the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. I mean, it's really almost zero, right? And I mean, that's dark. That is religion. That is Christianity. That's taking it seriously. And you don't really get the beginning of more writing and more scholarship until you get to the Carthaginian, what's his name? Once you get into the 10th century, really into the 11th century, where you get a real change. This does not include Muslim. This is just in this. I don't think this includes. Maybe maybe it includes. I have to dig deeper into this. I don't think the Spain here includes Islamists, but it might include Muslims in Spain. It certainly doesn't include Muslims in Iraq, in Syria, in places like that. I can't pronounce it. Carolingian. That's a Carolingian. It starts with the Carolingian period, where they actually start focusing on reading, writing, proper grammar, writing. Primarily, again, this is Charlemagne. Primarily focused on theology. And getting the theological thinkers out there. Anyway, I just thought it was a great, just little graphical illustration at the intellectual level of, if you will, the meaning of the Dark Ages. It doesn't include the Byzantine Empire, where there was a lot more going on, and it doesn't include the Islamic world, where there was a lot more going on. It just includes the Western Europe, except during the Roman Empire, where it includes Greece. So, but it does show what happened in Western Europe and what the Dark Ages really represent. Charlemagne sets off the Carolingian era, right? I think that's right, if I'm getting my history right. All right. Two final, funny, related, in some bizarre way, stories that are just fun because it's Friday. Well, then, you can take these seriously, and you can get really depressed about these, and you should. I mean, if we were in a serious mood, and if we really wanted to be philosophical about this, these are unbelievably depressing stories. But they're so ridiculously stupid that you have to laugh. You have to laugh at them. All right. Donald Trump. I mean, this is a story basically on how stupid MAGA is. Donald Trump has been pitching over the last week his own crypto. It's a new DeFi platform from Be Defiant. And it's geared towards shaping a new era in finance. And it's a new coin. It's a new token that you can go and you can buy from Donald Trump's blah, 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 whatever, World Liberty Financial. It's a World Liberty Financial token. Now, you can't use it as a currency, so it's not a cryptocurrency. It's just a token. Or, you know, there's another word for that. Wait. Scam, I think, is the word. You can't sell it. You can't trade it. All that buying the World Liberty Financial Token allows you to do is vote in a World Liberty Financial Matters. What those matters are going to be? It's a revolution in finance. We don't know yet. What you're going to be able to vote for or against? Nobody knows. But, I mean, literally, these are non-transferable. They're locked indefinitely in a wallet or smart contract. You should think of the purchase of tokens, this is from what they write up about it, like any other non-refundable purchase of goods and services, and accept the risk that once you pay the purchase price, your interest in the token may decline, and you have no expectations of reselling the token. I mean, this is snake oil. By 50+% future president of the United States, just in a few weeks, right? And, you know, people are buying this. Now, this is, of course, in addition to the coins and the playing cards and all the other stuff that Trump is hawking, because he is such a shallow, ridiculous, pathetic, you know, moron. I mean, it's just, he's just, how are we in a position where this guy's going to become the president of the United States? A guy hawking, I mean, really scams. I mean, they're not scams in a sense that everybody can see there's nothing there and people are still buying it. It's like selling pet rocks. Or maybe it's like selling. Let me find this. There it is. This is the other story I had. Maybe it's like selling special necklaces. Special necklaces. That these necklaces protect you. I mean, literally, these necklaces protect you from all the evil energies that are surrounding you. I mean, think of all the evil energies. Everywhere you go today, there's Wi-Fi. It's frying your brain. There's cell phone, there's radio waves, there's electromagnetic waves, there's all this stuff going on around you. And it's really bad for your brain. And we need a special necklace. Now, who do you think is selling the special necklace? Who do you think is selling the special necklace? Which celebrity do you think is selling this magic necklace? I mean, this is how I should raise money for the Yaron Brook Show. I need a BS detector, or this will protect you from statism, or this will protect you from irrationality. But see, but that's too rational. Nobody, yeah, I mean, my audience is too rational. I couldn't get away with this. But here is, this is, I don't know if he's Donald Trump's friend or not, but this is Russell Brand. Russell Brand, selling magic necklace. This is from, I got this from Free Press, from Barry Weiss's publication. In a new video selling a special necklace, Russell Brand emerges from some shrubs with a suitcase. He's traveling. And then starts hawking a special amulet. Quote, as you know, airports are places full of Wi-Fi and all sorts of evil energies. Think of all the phones out there, all the signals, corruptible and corrupting. Luckily, I wear this magical amulet from Ares Tech that keeps me safe from all the various signals out there. And Ares Tech is a glorious amulet to protect you from corrupting signals. I mean, I can think of only one other prominent a person out there who could be hawking anything like this. And this is definitely Russell Brand's friend. This sounds exactly like RFK. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if RFK is the funder of this this technology, Ares Tech. Why does anybody listen to this idiot? This mystical, crazy, stupid. I mean, this is what we are, guys. This is what we are. President of the United States, hawking a scam, crypto, and Russell Brand, one of the most popular podcasters in the world, hawking magical bracelets. Magical bracelets. Now, I know New Age has been around for a long time, but Russell Brand, he was just on Tucker. He's been on Tucker regularly. He's like the new, revealed, self-discovered face of the new right. And this is, could be RFK. And it could be RFK. And RFK could be your next healthcare czar. Next healthcare czar is, I mean, he was just, I just saw a clip of him. I was going to talk about this on one of the shows where RFK just goes ballistic about the evils of these new weight loss drugs and how evil and bad they are and how we need to get rid of them and stop them, and we need to take the money that we're spending buying these things, and we need to just start, you know, investing in organic vegetables and organic food, and that'll solve all our problems. I mean, there's something there, but really, you buy them a gym membership as if they'll go if you buy them a gym membership, and give them organic food, and everything is fine, as if they won't sneak like their junk food. You know, people who are obese, they as if they will use the gym membership. People are not going to the gym because it costs too much. They're not going to the gym because they don't want to. Anyway, RFK is just as much of a Looney Tune, and he is going to be our healthcare czar as Donald Trump, and who's going to be president, and Russell Brand, who maybe he'll get a gig as an advisor to the president with regard to all these dangerous, evil energies that are impacting your brain. Entertaining and yet meaningfully depressing stories for this Friday, October 18th. And that is the news. That is the news. I'll try to be positive next week. All right, guys, let's see how we're doing on this. We're doing pretty well. Pretty well. We've passed our first hour goal, and we're actually we're a little above that first hour, so we've got to make our second hour goal, but we're on the way. We're doing fairly well with that, so thank you for that. We've got a bunch of stickers here. Robert, of course, started us off with a $2 sticker, and then Sylvanas came in with a sticker, and then Robert did another sticker, and then John Parker and Mary Eileen, and there were more. Where were they? They just keeps jumping away from me. Mary Eileen, and then let's see who else. We had Jeff Bannister, and yes, and Molten Splendor did a $50 sticker. Molten Splendor, thank you. That is incredibly generous. Really, really appreciate that. And that is his first super chat on a live stream. First super chat, $50. That is fantastic. Thank you, buddy. Really, really, really appreciate the support. All right. And then we just got another sticker from Oscar, and Enric says, "Have a good Friday." Thank you, Enric. You too. So there we are. We're doing well in terms of funds coming in. Again, we still have a second hour to get there, so they need to keep coming in. So keep those stickers coming, please. I want to remind those who are not here live to do the stickers and to do the super chat. You can support the show on Patreon. Patreon's great. I think the preferred platform these days for support. PayPal's fine. PayPal and Patreon. Patreon, just patreon.com and put Yaron Brook Show, and you'll get there, and you can easily choose what level to support the show, from $2 to $1,000 a month. It's all available there. You can also do it on PayPal, yaronbrookshow.com/membership. I'm hoping my new website will go live tonight or tomorrow, this weekend. I think it'll go live, and that'll make it even easier. We have sponsors. John Bolton. John Bolton has been in the supplement business for over 2 decades. Is kind of has developed an expertise in analyzing kind of all the information that's out there on health and diet and putting on muscle and all of that. Kind of synthesizes so much of the available information. I mean, you could subscribe to like 2,000 YouTube channels that provide you with information. John integrates all that information and provides you with advice in order to achieve your goals, and how to make whatever program you take on, how to individualize it for you. So you can check out John at PhiLife, 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 on YouTube, where he has a channel. Please subscribe. Go there right now and subscribe. It'll just make whatever your plan is in terms of weight loss or muscle gain or fitness more broadly, it'll make it that much more easier to be able to ask questions of an expert and follow an expert and so go and subscribe. Alex Epstein, of course, is the guy that if you could have Alex with you when you're debating questions about environmentalism or fossil fuels or energy with one of your leftist relatives or one of your leftist friends, if you have any of those. But also, the even right-wing people who think that we need to cap fossil fuels and things like that. It would be great to have an Alex Epstein next to you to be able to feed you with answers when they bombard you with all the facts and the so-called scientists and evidence and all this stuff. Well, you can get that, Alex, as an Alex AI, where Alex AI can answer the questions and give you all those facts. You can also find Alex has all these talking points where you can learn all those things. So go to alexepstein.substack.com where you can find all this information. And finally, Ayn Rand Institute. If you want to really delve deep into Ayn Rand's philosophy, if you want to understand it, learn from it, particularly if you want to become a future intellectual, a speaker, a writer about her ideas, studying with the Ayn Rand Institute is phenomenal. You can do that with ARU, but one of the ways to be exposed to the professors and to the curriculum is to come to one of our Ayn Rand conferences. Ayn Rand conferences geared towards serious students of objectivism, serious students of these ideas, and where you get to meet objectivist scholars, objectivist teachers from the Ayn Rand University, where you get to participate. It's very interactive, very informal. Ayn Rand conferences, we have 3 of them in Brisbane and Austin. And I just want to remind you, there's one in Berlin in March. Hopefully, those of you who are in Europe right now will attend. You can apply for those. You can get information about when they are, where they are, all of that info and how you can apply for a scholarship. Really, really important. Scholarship that pay for your transportation and your costs of being at the conference. Those are amazing. You can apply for all of that at aynrand.org/start here. aynrand.org/start here. All right. Oh, and, I might as well do this one too, right? VPN Express is a sponsor of this show. I use VPN Express when I travel or when I'm checking out financial data and I'd like to get that extra security. Or when I want to log on to Netflix, even though I'm not in the country, but I have, it won't let me because it's in a foreign country. I can use the VPN Express. It's an amazing little tool. It works flawlessly. And if you go to VPN Express, it's actually ExpressVPN. I always get that wrong. ExpressVPN.com/Yaron. You will get an extra 3 months free. So they give you 3 months free already, I think, and you get an extra 3 months. So it's a great deal, and they send me a check. So win, 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 win. We all win. That's great. All right, let's start here. All right, with our super chats. Yeah, how long we go today will depend on how many questions you ask. That is the bottom line. Savannah says, just for kicks, steelman the reasoning behind Putin and Ukraine and why the U.S. should butt out. I mean, it's very difficult. I don't like steelmanning. I don't like the process because it means, and particularly in this case, it means advocating for a lie. That is, what you're asking is, what is the best argument that Putin has made? He hasn't made any good arguments. His arguments are basically the mystical, tribalistic, collectivistic arguments that I've said over and over again that he makes. There are people in the United States who've made arguments for Putin that have to do with, I don't know, here's the argument they would make, right? So steelman arguments made for Putin. He's afraid of NATO. NATO is this beast that keeps expanding, and then it keeps getting involved in wars. It got involved in the Serbian war, and it forced Milosevic to recognize Kosovo. And just awful how, NATO behaved in that war. And it's none of their business, right? And then it got involved in Iraq, and it got involved post 9/11 in all kinds of wars overseas. And that's not good. And it's by going after Milosevic, it's expressed an interest in expansionism. So Putin is afraid of NATO, worried about NATO. NATO is an enemy, he believes, of Russia. I don't know why he believes this, but he believes this. And then, you've got this one country. There's one country left between Russia and NATO that is not yet, well, two countries, Belarus and Ukraine, that are not yet members of NATO. The Balkans have become NATO, Poland is NATO, Romania is NATO, all these countries in Eastern Europe are NATO. Ukraine and Belarus, they're the only countries left that are not NATO. Yeah. So you've got, well, if you bring in the 1994 treaty, then you have to say something about the security guarantee that the United States gave. You can't treat the 1994 treaty, you can't steelman the 1994 treaty unless you are lying so much that you want to ignore half the treaty. And then, NATO's whole purpose is to isolate Russia. The whole purpose is to go after Russia. And therefore, you've got Belarus and Ukraine. Belarus is on Russia's side, no problem there. But Ukraine, Ukraine is looking towards NATO, and NATO is looking towards Ukraine, and Ukraine is probably the next victim of NATO. They're going to side with NATO, and they're going to get a lot of money. NATO will give them a lot of money, and then they're going to station nuclear weapons in Ukraine that are potentially going to attack. Potentially could launch an attack on Russia and on Moscow. They're really close to Moscow, and then maybe if they take Ukraine, maybe they could then have a revolution in Belarus and take Belarus as well. And then Russia's basically the whole West. They have a long border with NATO, and that's an absolute unmitigated disaster. By the way, the other country that Russia had a border with that gave it a buffer towards NATO was Norway. Norway was not a member of NATO. Norway and Sweden. Norway is that long, long border. And that's where Putin lost the war. He lost the war when Norway became a NATO member because Norway has an even longer border with Russia than Ukraine. So that's the best you can steelman it. And then from the United States perspective, it's simple. The best steelman argument for Ukraine is, this is not our problem. Europe is far away. Indeed, we shouldn't even be in NATO. Europeans are rich enough, they can take care of themselves. Finland, not Norway, God. Finland has a long border with Russia and is now a NATO member. Where was I? Yes, United States. It's not a problem. It's Europe. It's far away. Even if Russia invaded Europe and took all of Europe, why is it any of our business? They're not attacking us. Yeah, they're our friends, but we're not going to send Americans to die for the French. Again, Europe is significantly richer than Russia is. Why can't Europe develop defense forces to defend itself? Now, I'm much more sympathetic to that argument than I am to the first one. That is, the argument that the United States should basically leave NATO and let the Europeans defend themselves is much more rational than the argument that what Putin really is worried about NATO expansionism, and then NATO is a negative force in the world and is trying to, which is complete BS. So the argument for American non-intervention is a better argument than the argument for NATO being a negative force in the world and Russia just doing this in self-defense. That's completely BS. Not based on any reality. And by the way, not based on any of the arguments that Putin himself has made. Putin's arguments are based on mysticism and the grandeur of the Russian people and the integrity of the Russian people and the Ukrainians being Russians and the Russian Empire and wanting to establish an empire. And you can see it in Gorkin and his other philosophical influences. They're all Russian imperialists, explicitly Russian imperialists who believe Russia should control Europe. They're weird, mystical imperialists. So that is the best I can do, Sylvanus. Hopefully that was entertaining. And thank you for the support. Thank you for the $50 question. It's very, very generous. Dawn, will Israel ever decide whether they want to be one fully free, fully integrated country, including West Bank and Gaza, or allow a state of Palestinians to exist? Status quo can't last forever, but it's up to them. I don't know if they'll ever decide. They seem to want to avoid that decision, and the Palestinians make it easy for them to avoid that decision because the Palestinians in their current condition, philosophical, ideological condition, cannot be integrated into Israeli society and cannot have their own state because it'll just serve as a base to attack Israel. So the Palestinians are making it impossible for Israel to ultimately choose because neither of those choices is a possibility. Only the status quo seems like it's possible. Of course, recognizing that and doing something about it is how you get to a solution. And within Israel, you've got significant forces that want to basically to have the whole territory as Israel. But as part of that, they would like to kick out the Arabs. They'd like to kick out the Palestinians. And you've got another portion of the population that believes that that is ridiculous, that is impossible, and ultimately going to have a Palestinian state. So, or one big democratic state. And they can't get along. But at the end of the day, it's irrelevant what they think because the Palestinians cannot do either one of those things. They're not ready for it. They're not in a position. Israel is not in a position to give the current Palestinians either one of those two solutions, because in both alternatives, it's the destruction of Israel is the outcome. John says, peace will come to the Middle East and Israel when we award the Nobel Peace Prize. I can dream, can't I? Oh, peace will come to the Middle East and Israel will be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. I can dream of it, can't I? Yeah, we can dream. We can dream. We can dream. I mean, it's more likely that peace will come to the Middle East than Israel gets a Nobel Peace Prize. Because the only way peace will come to the Middle East is through force. And the Nobel Prize Committee will never recognize force as a justification for peace. Andrew, to what do you attribute the unseriousness and shallowness of the cultural attitude towards politics? Is the lack of intelligibility of the intellectuals to blame? Well, I mean, everything's to blame, right? What's to blame? A philosophy that's detached from reality, that is impractical, a morality that commits one to unseriousness, because I'm not going to sacrifice for everybody, but I can't really be selfish either, right? So it's an unserious moral stance, a postmodernist ideology that doesn't believe reality is real and everything's subjective and it's a collective consciousness and all this nonsense, an identitarian ideology that says that you are determined by your genes and your skin color and you know, you should treat people based on how much suffering they've had or how much success they've had. Hate the successful, embrace the suffering. I mean, the whole world is upside down. So how can we be serious? And most importantly, we teach our kids not to think but to emote, that there's no truth. We get what we ask for. We get a whim-worshipping, unserious joke of a political system. I mean, joke is too generous, but yeah. Robert, Goodnews Friday stickers to celebrate the weekend. Sorry, I didn't have good news today. I really need to go back to Fridays have to be some good news. I failed you, Robert. I apologize. Michael, isn't there a lot more capitalism in blue states than red states? Blue states seem much more cosmopolitan and commercial, whereas red states are rural and dead. Well, it depends what you mean by capitalism, right? Capitalism is a particular system, a social system. And it's not the outcome. It's the system. And we don't live under capitalism, and there's not more capitalism, there's not more economic freedom in blue states than there are in red states. What there is more in blue states is more production happens because, for a variety of reasons, partially because, unfortunately, the way the left-right works in America, people with education, people who are intelligent, people who are entrepreneurial, people who are innovative, tend to live in blue states. And in spite of the fact that blue states are less economically free, they tend to stay there and innovate there because of the network effect. There are huge benefits for them staying there. And they stay there and they build there and they create there. And whether it's the network effect of New York, finance, or and tech, or Boston biotech, or Silicon Valley, or Hollywood, or San Diego, which all have their own network effects around innovation. People, and people, a lot of entrepreneurs, but also the reality is that those, and then Seattle, of course, those entrepreneurs tend to be left, tend to be blue. We talked about this before, right? And so that's the cause. It's not that the blue states are more capitalist. It's that the people there are more productive. People in blue states are more productive than people in red states, generally speaking. You know, the exceptions, Texas with fracking, particularly the oil and gas industry, but also now with some tech because people have moved there. But generally, it's true of red states and blue states. It's true of blue states. Michael says, did Sinwar know he was going to die after initiating October 7th? Was dying and becoming a shahid his goal? I don't think so. I think he knew there was a high probability he would die, but he was going to do whatever he could to stay alive. And he was hoping for a moderate Israeli response. He was hoping for a deal for the hostages. I don't think Sinwar realized the extent to which October 7th rattled Israeli society, the extent to which it committed Israeli society to the true destruction of Hamas, and the extent to which Israel would be tough. Not as tough as I would like it to be, but much tougher than what I expected them to be. And to the extent to which they would go to no ends to kill him. I don't think he expected that. Although I think he obviously understood it was a possibility. And what is the difference between a tribe and a cult? A tribe is not necessarily, although sometimes is, centered around a charismatic leader. A cult is always centered around some charismatic leader. I think a lot of tribes are cults. That's why we talk about cult of personality. And there's a large extent, MAGA is both a tribe and a cult, right? Because it's centered around a personality. Woke is more tribal. There's not one personality. I think that's the difference. I think it has to do with the central figure within a cult versus a tribe doesn't necessarily have to be about a figure. And tribes often have ethnic or cultural or racial homogeneity or commonality, and cults don't necessarily. Those are the things that come to my mind. But there's not a big difference. Robert says, sticker, sticker, sticker. Keep them coming. Yes, sticker, sticker, sticker. We'll keep them coming. We're what, $172 short of the goal for the second hour. We've got half an hour to make it. Half an hour to make it. So we haven't even done it. We're not even halfway to the second hour goal. Keep going, guys. Michael says, I don't see the chain reaction for generating another Dark Ages. Well, I mean, I can give you one. Nuclear war. Not much left. I mean, human beings probably survive it, but not with much. Not with much. But I don't think anybody saw the chain reaction to the Dark Ages in, I don't know, 320 AD, 350 AD, 380 AD, 400 AD. They didn't see it. It was just around the corner. They didn't see it. Now, I've said often that I think we're in a better situation today because of the dispersion of knowledge. It's not just Rome collapsing. You'd have to have a much more global collapse. But we do have nukes, which they didn't have then, which could cause a global collapse. Jason, thank you for the sticker. Fred Harper, thank you for the sticker. Gail, thank you. I think I thanked Oscar, but if I didn't, I'll thank him again. Oscar, and yeah, I think I'm caught up. Let's see. Questions. $162 short. $162,000 would be good too. What do you make of JD Vance's argument that due to outsourcing industrial production to other countries, at worst, potential enemies like China, U.S. Army will be screwed in case of war? I mean, there's a lot wrong with that argument, and I think his solution to it is completely wacky, completely wrong. So, first, we still, in the United States, produce more stuff today than we ever have. So we're at peak manufacturing. We literally manufacture today more stuff than we ever have. We just do it with, I don't know, less than a half of the workers because of automation. So it's not like we've lost manufacturing. Now, maybe the kind of manufacturing has changed, but we haven't lost any manufacturing. We've lost jobs, manufacturing jobs, but not manufacturing. There's more manufacturing going on in America today as ever before. So that's one. Second, if there are certain areas that the Pentagon can identify in which vital things that it will need in a war, in an upcoming war, we are not made by the U.S. or its allies, but are completely made by a potential enemy, China, then something should be done about it. But the something should be done about it is not tariffs, which is the dumbest policy in human history at this point. Right? What should be done about it is, for example, the Pentagon can say, look, we really need to build manufacturing capacity for drones in the United States or in Mexico or in Canada or in the Western Europe, somewhere where we can easily access them in case of war. I'm just making this up because I don't know that we don't have it in the United States or in its allies, but let's assume we don't. All drones are made in China. That's not good for us. That's dangerous. Wars are going to require drones. We need to manufacture drones. So the U.S. government says, we're offering a contract, and make it a big one. Subsidize this in a sense. We're going to buy $1 gazillion worth of drones from 5 different drone makers. The only requirement that they have is that they are owned and produced by either in the US or an ally. And you could even specify, and I would, the ally has to be on this side of the Pacific. I don't want to have to ship the drones from South Korea to America to then go back to fight the Chinese, right? So it has to be Europe or Latin America or Canada or the US. What's called friendshoring. And we will pay for these drones. We want 5 manufacturers. We will pay for X number, gazillion dollars worth of drones. We'd like them to be in this price range. These quality, go for it. Do it. And that's how you create a market, right? And you create a market, and you're the customer. And maybe if that market is created, there'll also be other commercial customers because these drones will now be viable. And you want to make sure that they're competitive with the Chinese. So you set a price point that makes them competitive. And because there are 5 of them, maybe at the end of the day, you only use 3 because the 2 are just not competitive. And actually, if you say you're going to buy for 5, they're going to be 20 started. 20 will start. And what will probably happen is you encourage Silicon Valley to invest in new, the greatest, best ideas around, what do you call it, drones. But then you manufacture them in Mexico, which is ideal. Comparative advantage of the U.S. is ideas, engineering, design. Mexico's is manufacturing. Have Mexico manufacture our drones, and then you solve the problem. Same thing with cannons, ammunition, anything like that. You just have big contracts. And you say, we're not going to buy from the Chinese for these countries. That doesn't require embargoes. It doesn't require banning trade. It doesn't require, it certainly doesn't require, again, tariffs. Now, if you say, look, China's an enemy. We don't want you to trade with China because China's an enemy. Then you don't want tariffs. What you want is an embargo. What you want are sanctions. You cannot trade with China. You cannot buy anything with China. You cannot sell anything to China. Don't trade with China. Trade is win-win. You don't want China to win. So that would be my answer. And I think JD Vance is super smart, but he is forced into idiotic position because of his purposeful ignorance of economics and his purposeful nationalism that he's taken on. All right, Rand. I'm late. Have the Israelis finally done something positive about Iran? Hopefully, but not optimistic. Not yet. Not yet, as far as I can tell. It might be happening as we're speaking, but I have not seen any news from any source of mine to suggest that it's happening right now. But it could happen any minute. It could happen any day now. There's no question, I think, unless that's crazy. I think that, I'm just looking at the latest news. No, nothing yet. So I think it's going to happen in the next few days. If it doesn't happen in the next few days, it's really problematic. It's really problematic. Then Israel is much, much weaker than even I think it is. So I will let you know as soon as it happens. I'll be on letting you guys know what's going on. Michael, we always talk about the West collapsing, but Iran and Russia are much more likely to collapse than we are. I think that's true. I mean, one of the things that I always talk about is the fact that the bad guys are much weaker than the good guys. It doesn't mean the West won't collapse. It just means our enemies will collapse faster than us. Christian, at the Munich Security Conference months ago, JD Vance claimed that U.S. supporting both Israel and Ukraine needs more production than possible right now. What to do if true? Well, first of all, it's not true. The U.S. right now is supporting both Israel and Ukraine with massive amounts of production, and as far as I can tell, doing okay. But if the United States needs more production, then all the United States needs is to allocate more money to defense budget and buy more stuff and encourage manufacturers to build more manufacturing capacity to sell more stuff. That could be done easily, could be done tomorrow. If the U.S. government wants to be fiscally responsible, it would have to cut spending elsewhere. But the United States can't spend a lot of money on defense if it so chooses. And by spending a lot of money in defense, it can stimulate a lot of production. Neocon, did you watch the debate between Vivek and Bolton? No, I have not. I didn't know there was a debate between Vivek and Bolton. I guess I feel sorry for Vivek because he's clueless as compared to Bolton when it comes to these things. So I'll try to check it out. I always say that, but then I run out of time and I never watch half of the things that I want to watch. Neocon also says, some say Putin fears Trump, but I laugh. Putin would outmaneuver him. The only person he might fear is John Bolton, given Bolton's hawkish approach. I agree. I don't think Putin fears Trump. I think Putin looks down on Trump. I think Putin thinks Trump is ridiculous and a clown, which I think one thing I agree with Putin on. I think Putin will manipulate Trump easily. Easily. And he did the first round. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't this round. Andrew says, we owe deep gratitude to big tech, viewing its visionaries with derision and suspicion as a sign of cultural rot. Yet the Reardens of today forge ahead. Yes, they do. And it's inspiring to watch. And imagine what it could be if we had more freedom. Imagine what it could be if they had more moral support. Bree, I think the CEOs simply follow power. This is the simplest explanation. Doing what is best for their companies is always the priority. We rarely see them out slumping for any candidates. No, because they don't want to do that, but they do give money, and it's follow the money. And if you follow the money, it does look like they give more money to, that has changed. They used to give more money to Republicans, now they give more money to Democrats. Or they're bifurcated. Some give huge amount to Republicans and Republicans on the right, and some give to far left causes. So I don't think it's all about power. I think CEOs, like everybody else, believes in stuff, and it's interesting to see what CEOs actually believe. And I think follow the money is a good way to get a sense of that. Follow what causes they support, what candidates they support is a good way to get a sense of that. John says, was Ayn Rand wrong when she said homosexuality is disgusting and immoral? Now, I don't remember that she says it's immoral. I'm not saying she didn't. I don't remember she does. She did say it's disgusting, but I don't remember she says it's immoral. And yes, I think she was wrong. And it was disgusting to her. That I don't. There's no question about. I don't think it's immoral. Leonard Peikoff has said he doesn't think it's immoral. Disgusting as a personal preference. Nefel, this necklace might boost Turkish economy because in Turkey, these necklaces are made. Oh, so you have the magic necklace that creates hyperinflation and reduces technological innovation? I have no idea. I didn't know the necklace was made in Turkey, but all right, this is our last Super Chat question. We're $137 short of a goal. I don't know if anybody wants to jump in with some stickers to get us closer to the goal. That would be great. We've still got 150 people watching right now live. You can all do $1, and we're covered. Value for value. Jump in. Feel free. All right, Wesley, last question. unless we get more questions while we wait. Would objectivism allow for duels, assuming both parties consent? If not, how would it be different from euthanasia or assisted dying? No, objectivism would not allow for duels. I mean, I don't know that you can exactly, prevent duels, and there would have to be a category for how you would. I guess you would criminalize. The person who was shooting in the duel, the person who won the duel. It would not allow it. It does not sanction dispute resolution through violence. The law would not sanction dispute resolution through violence. And in that sense, it's very different than euthanasia. Euthanasia, I'm choosing, based on objective reasons, based on my own standard for life, to stop living. I'm not choosing to kill somebody else. I'm not choosing, maybe I will die, maybe they will die. That's something completely different. So you could choose to end your life. You can't choose to end somebody else's life, even if that somebody else is okay with it in the context of a duel. Not the same thing. And again, there's a reason why I would consent to help somebody commit suicide. There would have to be an objective reason for me to consent to help him. A duel takes away the consent around a reason to die. It's a stupid, irrational, and immoral way of dispute resolution. And it shouldn't be sanctioned. P. Gupta says, unfortunately, Vivek did better than Bolton. Untethered from reality, it's easy to win debate. I guess that's true. I guess that's true. Sad, but true. All right, maybe this is the last question, given that we'll see if we get other ones coming in. Nefel says the triangle-shaped necklace that are made by unofficial imams, they are viewed as superstitions now. But the one that what's his name, Russell Brand, is that the same kind? I assume so. And of course, that's a superstition, completely bonkers. But that's what it is. All right, guys, have a fantastic weekend. I will see you guys on probably tomorrow. Probably have a show tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly what time or what the topic will be, but I'll try to figure that out and let you know. But have a phenomenal weekend, and I'll see you soon. Bye, everybody. Oh, we got another question sneaking in from Andrew. I'm just spiraling around one of your rules for life to be curious. Children are extremely curious about the world. There's no rational reason to lose that, yet why do you think so many do? Why do people as they become adults lose the curiosity that children have? I think because the older you get, the curiosity requires, in a sense, more effort. It requires choosing. There's a sense in which little kids are opening their eyes and everything is new around them. So it's like everything they do is a form of curiosity because they're just trying to investigate the world. At some point, they've got enough, and now the question is, will they take the next step? And the older we get, the more effort we have to go to the next step. We have to go read, we have to go search, we have to go investigate. Our curiosity requires more energy in a sense, more initiation, I think, of this. It's also true that a lot of parents discourage curiosity. Stop asking why. Bam. Don't read. Don't do this. Schools discourage it. They bore the kids to death. I think a lot of kids go to school all excited. I'm going to learn new things. This is going to be fun. My curiosity will be satiated. And then they go there and it's boring. And I'm bored. And I'm not interested anymore. And so I think boredom, disincentives, and making the wrong choices about the effort to think or not to think are the reasons they stop being really curious about the world. One of Freeman says, I'm curious about the Yaron Brook show. It's a very curious show. Very curious show. All right, guys. Unless another question sneaks in, we'll call this a day. Have a great weekend. I'll probably see you over the weekend, or at least some of you. Bye, everybody.